right, and with that, we should be live. Guys, I am really, really excited about what we're going to talk about today. As I hope most of you know, storage units and tackle units is really one of our core competencies. We've built a lot of these parts for a lot of the boat builders throughout the years, and I think we've really done a good job of having a big catalog and stuff to choose from when it comes to storage units. The one you're looking at right now is one we dragged up and outfitted with some of the stuff we had laying around just to be a good demo piece. But before we get into that, I'd like to flip over and show you that box actually installed on a customer's boat. So this part, we prototyped it for a customer who was using it on the front of their console. They were actually replacing a cooler that served as a cooler seat. So you can see there's a cushion that it leans back up against. And this customer, we worked with them and they needed some specific Plano trays and some drawers and all different kinds of storage space up top. And this person actually, let's see if I can get it to zoom, has separate Plano trays that are all rigged out with specifically what species they're targeting. And this is something that we work with. And said, hey, what do you need? What do you want? Maybe some drawers down here. Well, what do you want to store, right? And that's what we want to talk about today. We want to go through that process of when we're working with a customer and we're trying to design a Plano tray, or excuse me, a tackle box. What are all the different options that you can do? So, Jared, where do you start when you're going through that process?
Yeah, so absolutely. So when a customer calls us, the first question we're going to ask them is, how much room do you have, right? Taking measurements of that area really kind of dictates what we can and cannot do with that space. Each of these different options we're going to go through has a footprint, and that footprint allows you to, use this versus this, and we're really going to be able to consult somebody on the best way to maximize that space. So our 4 components that we have that are part of those tackle centers come down to Plano trays, drawer units, as a catch-all, as well as tool holders. So if you want to go ahead and start, Andrew, with the Plano trays.
So, bread and butter are Plano trays. We have 2 different main footprints that we inventory. These are the 3700s and 3730s. They're the exact same footprint, but 2 different heights. Conversely, we've got 3650s and 3630s. Again, the same footprint, but different heights. And we incorporate Plano trays into most of the different tackle boxes that we build. So if you scroll through the tackle box section on our site, you can see that there's different Plano trays. In this case, there's 2 3700s stacked on 2 3730s.
So let's talk through some of the advantages and disadvantages of that. This box, of course, is a certain footprint like we discussed.
Sure.
You're able to, in this case, probably use different Plano trays based on the size of items that you're putting in there. You could, in this case, maybe go away and go all 3700s all the way down to where you're not having those thicker ones, and you can fit more in there.
You might get 5, right? If this person had preferred, and really, everything you look on the site was designed for somebody, right? This person just wanted 2 of the deep ones and 2 of the shallow ones.
Sure.
But you probably could get 5 3700s instead of the 2 and 2 here if that was your preference.
Yep.
And really, you hit on it, right? It's what are you storing? If you're going to use this 3730 just to store small hooks, you're wasting space.
Yep.
Right. But conversely, there's some some lures that you probably couldn't fit, or you definitely couldn't fit inside of the shallow 3700.
So you look through the Plano trays. There's 2 different types of orientation, right? A lot of them facing out there in that case, but then the long ways and the unit right to the other side. So again, that's something that really we look at from a space standpoint, right?
Absolutely. So we know all the different minimums, right? So okay, I only have 9.5 inches. Okay, well, given that, you could fit a 3650 depth ways, which means I save a lot on the width. So maybe I could put a drawer to the side of it, right?
Sure.
And we help consult on a lot of that, but that's definitely the major consideration is just, okay, well, which way can we put these? Maybe we can put them in long ways and we can stack a bunch up, and that leaves some space in front for maybe putting something on the inside of the door, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Right.
Or maybe we use up all the depth by turning them depth ways, and maybe that allows us to get 2 different rows of them, right?
Or they don't have enough depth at all, right?
Totally.
And if they don't, then it's got to go in widthwise.
Absolutely. But Plano trays are really kind of the bread and butter. One of the really nice things about them is they're easily replaceable. One thing we do, which I showed at the beginning, a lot of customers will buy a couple extras, and they'll, maybe they've got their inshore rigs and they rig up, or they have one Plano tray that has all their inshore rigs, they've got their offshore rigs and another one, and they just grab whichever one's based off what they're going out that day. So that's really convenient in that way. They're available at every they're
Tackle
probably
shop.
or Walmart. Right?
Yep.
I mean,
Box
they're
store.
available everywhere.
Or boat outfitters.
Or boat outfitters. Yeah, absolutely. So planer trays are great. They're obviously more applicable if you're fishing. The other one, which you can see on a lot of boxes here, the other thing we do a lot of is drawer storage.
Right. So with drawer storage, they're the goods and the bads of each one, right? So if you're going to use drawers, it's probably something where if you've got a boat that you're doing a lot of cruising, the style of boating that you're doing with drawer storage, that's going to be a better option if you're cruising, right? Plano trays really don't serve a purpose if you're not doing any fishing on the boat. So as part of that, I would say some of the downsides to a drawer unit would be some of the cost as well as usable space. You can see with these drawer units, really you're adding in a stainless steel slide that's a higher value or a higher dollar slide, plus you're adding more material. You've got to build to the side of that box or that drawer that's a box within a box, and that adds expense to the unit. One of the things that we always like to make note as well is by building that box within a box, you're eating up some of that room. In the case of a drawer, you're using about an inch on each side. So, take away an inch on each side. If you've got a very narrow area that's, let's say, 8 inches, well, now you're adding that drawer to that area. You really only have 6 inches of usable space. So that's something to be mindful of.
It's definitely something to consider. I mean, drawers are super convenient in so much that, space is so limited on a boat that oftentimes people are used to rummaging through. Maybe you brought on a bag, right? And you're digging through the bottom of your bag. Or maybe you've got some stuff that's tossed down inside the console and it's kind of just in a pile, right? So people are used to having to dig into something, right? And by giving someone a drawer where you can open it up and look down and
Easy
see
access.
the components.
Yep.
I mean, it is convenient. There's a reason we sell a lot of drawer units. Drawer units are super, super convenient. But to your point, they take up space. The drawer itself takes up space.
Right.
And sometimes this happens all the time. People come and they go, hey, I want to build this drawer unit. I have 6 inches of width. I'm really psyched to get my 6-inch drawer. And we go, no, hold on. You've got the box side. You've got the drawer slide. And then you've got the side of the box.
Right.
And that's on both sides.
So
right?
What do?
You have 2 inches, 3 inches of usable inside space. So your other option, which is a great transition into another feature that we do a lot of, is to just do open catch-all space. It doesn't sound like a feature at all, because in some ways it's not, but it's a cubby, it's a glove box, it's a open catch-all area that you can really toss anything. And let's see if we can find some good examples online of what that is. Boom, right here.
Yeah, so this is a good example. I mean, it's pretty unique to where you can throw some, looks like they've got some dock lines in there, some line spools that are in there. Again, really any option. The disadvantage, I think, to an open cubby is that when the boat's running, stuff's moving around.
That's
right?
absolutely the case,
You've got a lot of space in there where you see where that stuff sits, that you're just making a pile, that if the pile gets high enough, you open the door, stuff falls out. We have little keeper strips in some cases that go across the front, but it's not as organized. So unless you have something large, like we talk about a fighting belt that could go in there.
Fighting belt would be perfect,
It's not necessarily the best use of the space.
I would agree, and I would say that this right here is a uniquely large catch-all area. In most cases, they're integrated kind of in the context of here. Like, here's just an open shelf, right? And in some cases, you need that anyway because we need a place for the actual latch to catch on.
Sure.
So we'll push and try to get some storage, some shelf space anyway, so we've got a place to catch. But yeah, I would agree. There's trade-offs. Now, the other trade-off besides size is material and cost.
Yep.
Right. I mean, and that's one of my go-tos when I'm talking to someone and they might be going, "Hey, look, I like this, but maybe X $100 is too expensive."
Yep.
Is all right. That's fine. Let's take all of the drawers out of it, and we'll put maybe some shelves in it and just make it an open storage cubby that's finished out and clean and nice. And we can take a ton of labor. We can take a ton of engineering, and we can take a ton of material out of a box by doing that way. So that's always an option. If you're looking at a part and going, let's try to figure out a way to hit my budget, this is kind of my price point, I would always encourage you to call us and let us talk through that. We don't negotiate pricing on what we have on the website, but we will always work to try to find a way to design something that can hit your price point. And oftentimes transitioning from drawers to open catch-all cubby space is a really good way to accomplish that.
And there's ways around it. I mean, you can buy some type of an organizer that can drop into that cubby section and get a little bit more organized and stuff.
Put Plano
trays, right? Or a little basket or something. So I do think that's a really good option. Let's talk about the final component. You guys can see on the screen here a lot of different units where we've integrated tool holders into the door. This freestanding leaning post tackle unit is one of our most popular units. You can see we've got, starting with a knife holder. What are some of the other options we offer?
Yeah, we've done a lot of different tools. I mean, the main ones are knife storage and plier storage. In this case, there's 2 knives. Maybe you needed a little bait knife, and then you also wanted a fillet knife, right? So we've done a single knife holder, a double, a triple. Again, this was all designed for somebody, for the most part, and kind of designed to their specifications based off the type of fishing or the type of boating that they were doing. But you've got pliers as well that you can integrate into here. And then one of the other really fancy ones that we do a lot of is leader spool holders. Now, leader spool holders we've done for the boat builders for a long time, but funny enough, boat builders generally didn't put leader material actually on the leader spools when they were at trade shows. So it would often they wouldn't know what they were even used for. But here you can see how slick they are, in that this is designed to mount on the back of the door, and you load your leader spool with it. And not only is it a great place to store it, right, because these things are kind of bulky. They don't fit in drawers. Maybe you're digging the bottom of a tackle bag to try to find them. So not only are they bulky, but this stores it in a way that it's very easy to pull your leader off and cut it and retrieve it. And for the most part, you're never taking that off to change this out. But, well, of course, it depends on how much you fish, but not very often, right, until you've run out of leader material. So this is a real convenient way to store your leader on the back of the door. But and to have a great place to always come, to retrieve it. So I have a couple of other real unique designs and different things we've done more edge case. Like this person wanted this really cool X or Y, and I want to go through that. But before we do that, I'd like to flip back over and let's look at that tackle box here that we have set up, that we started at the beginning, and talk through the different drawers, the different Plano trays, why this customer would have done that, and kind of how that process works.
Absolutely. Yeah, so here's the tackle box, the same tackle box we looked at the beginning of the show. You can see now where we've integrated a couple of the different components we've talked about. Here are the Plano trays all the way up this side and all the way down that side. And this side you can see where they're staggered and offset a little bit with some of our different drawers, right? So here's a smaller drawer that's got a divider in it, perfect for maybe throwing in some terminal tackle. We can build dividers that run down this way as well.
And that's a good example of where you start to look at that drawer and you go, okay, in this case we had some soft plastics that we just had up in the office that we threw in there for the sake of demonstration.
Right.
But you may or may not have anything that's practical to fit in that area.
Yeah.
And you might go, maybe a cubby gets it to be 3 inches wider. Maybe there is something that fits inside of a cubby.
And more practical
Absolutely.
space. Yeah. I'd see something on an offshore boat. This is some inshore lures here, but you could put in some of your different trolling skirts that would fit perfect here. Again, that's where we come in to be able to say, what is it that you're going to be doing on the boat, and we're going to help consult to make the best use of that space. So, part of it, again, is the drawer. You can see the different drawers that are here, all of the Plano trays. They've opted to go with all of the same size Plano tray in this case. This is something where maybe they would switch out. You'd probably lose one of the trays. You'd have one, instead of 2 down here at the bottom, a thicker Plano tray that would be here, and you'd lose that space, but we can go ahead and integrate that because it has the same exact footprint.
That's a great point. And if you're ever looking at the different tackle boxes on boat outfitters and you go, hey, this is really very close to the size, or this is exactly the size, but I really need the deeper 3730s. The 3700s are good. I need some of them, but I need a couple 3730s. We could totally re-engineer a box, and it's relatively nominal engineering to make that change, just to make the exact same thing, but make the spacers, the runners that the Plano trays slide on, that much larger. But to your point, there's a trade-off, right? They're deeper, so you might only get 2
you'd have
3
2 here instead of 4, right?
Exactly.
So another component we talked about later on is some of the catch-all space. You can see here in the middle here some really good catch-alls, and what they've done is they've offset this. You've got on this side Plano trays with drawers, Plano trays with catch-alls here. We've got some dock lines tucked back in there. A really good use of space here for this box. Another open area at the top of the box, you can see some catch-all storage up here. We've got some VHFs, a knife thrown in there. We've integrated some dividers in here as well, right? So depending on what you're putting in here, if it's a larger item, maybe you're throwing some t-shirts, some towels, you're able to stay a little bit more organized and move these down throughout the space.
And whenever we do dividers and drawers, and for the most part we do add dividers to drawers, we always make them removable. Sometimes it requires actually pulling the drawer all the way out, just depending on the design of the box. In this case, it doesn't actually. I think that's removable. Yeah, removable as is. So you can kind of customize your drawers almost on a as-needed basis. Is it fitting down in there?
Yep, it's good.
So we add removable dividers to a lot of drawers to allow you to configure it. And in fact, we even do some where we do cross dividers, where instead of just doing depth dividers, we do like a grid system, maybe for lead weights or really anything. Yeah, do your cross dividers there. Good job, Vanna White.
Yeah, so the final component that we discussed that are major components are these tool holders here on the door. I'll move out of the way here, but you can see a couple of these different tool holders, and really what makes this possible, and this is very important, is that this has enough depth that you can see as I put in each of the Plano trays as well as the drawers. I've got a little bit of room that's still available here behind the door. So that's where we've integrated these tool holders that, number one, helps keep the drawers and the Plano trays in place when the boat's running. But again, a lot of different options. Here's where you've got a fillet knife. You could stick some pliers or knives here. And then having that you can see how convenient it would be that you open up this tackle box, and here you go. You've got your pliers and your leader. You're able to cut that off, get back to fishing, close it up, nice and ready.
And you touched on a really good point there. The tool holders serve the purpose, of course, of holding the tool. That's awesome. But another thing that we've experienced, of course, we've been building these for 40 years, is it's very important that the door is pretty tight up against the Plano tray when it's in the closed position and pushed all the way to the back, because when you run your boat, you will get your Plano tray slamming. In fact, if it's too much, like if you load it up with a lot of lead weight or something, it can actually slam against the door to the point that it pops the whole door open, busts the latch and pulls it off. So one of the things that we do, and this is just what we've done through experience, and we always do this when we're working with someone, is we try to size. One, of course, you can size the depth to just fit tight against your Plano trays. That's of course an option. Two, you can put some tool holders that are appropriately sized to push up against the Plano trays. Or three, we even sometimes mount just a starboard strip to the back of the door that serves no purpose besides pushing nice and tight up against those Plano trays so that you don't get the movement inside the box. And I say that just as a tip. It's it's something that we do and just always do. But if you ever wanted to try to build something like that yourself, something to consider as well.
Awesome. Yeah, so we've kind of walked through and covered a lot of these different components that are available here. We have some of the other specializations or things that we've done in the past. So what I'd like to do is flip back over to Andrew here, and we can walk through some of the really cool things we've done before.
Yeah, so I've got one up here and again, these are much less common. The main four, the tackle box, the drawers, the catch-all areas, and the tool holders, those are included on, 9 out of 10 boxes have most of those elements. These are more niche. So this is actually really cool though. This is a pull-out leader drawer. So this is, we designed these leader spools to sit inside the drawer, and they pull down and through these holes in the front. And we've designed them so they really don't bounce. It actually works quite well. You pull it through the holes, and on the back, there's actually a slot and a piece of starboard with a bulb seal, the same seal that we use on the inside of the door, that presses nice and tight against the leader material.
Which is great. I mean, you imagine being able to open that door up, pull that out, clip it off, and the nice thing is it's not folding or falling back into the drawer, so you've always got access.
Absolutely.
I've seen some of the units that we've done this very same way for a couple customers, where we've even milled into the material the different pound tests for each one. So how nice is that? You open it up, somebody that's never been on your boat before, you open up the door, hey, where's the 30-pound leader? Boom, you pull it off, clip it off, you're ready to go.
Absolutely. So another thing we do is pull out cutting boards, and there's actually a pull out cutting board on that box that we were just looking on with Jared, and maybe we'll switch back to that. I think I have it here in one of these tabs. This one is pretty cool in that it actually slides into a retainer that's incorporated into the inside of the door. So again, you need a little bit of additional depth that's worked into that so that your door can close, but you're able to store and retrieve a cutting board right on the inside of the door.
I love it.
Another way you could do it, and this is that same box, is you can do it, depth-wise, run it on a track depth-wise. So here's a pull-out cutting board, again, that runs depth-wise into the box. And then here's one that's actually incorporated into the top. Now, this would only be applicable on a freestanding box, not a box that you recess into an opening. But if you have a freestanding box like this one, you can have a cutting board that's actually incorporated and retained on the very top of the lid.
Yep. So one of the questions I know that I'd be thinking if I'm looking at designing that box, I know what that cutting board's going to look like after a year's worth of fishing, right? Sure. The nice thing that we would be able to offer to somebody like that is call us up. We'd be able to price out just that component of the tackle box for you, so you could keep things looking nice and sanitary in some cases on the boat.
There's that, and 100%. I mean, we would absolutely be able to get you a replacement. But one of the things we designed is we easily could have, because it's starboard on top, right? It's starboard on starboard, so we easily could have not done a cutting board at all on the top. One of the reasons we did this cutting board and made it removable, in fact, it's tough to see because it's white on white. There's little twist knobs here that release it so you can pull it out, and then when you push it in, you twist the knob to lock it down in place. One of the reasons we did that is so that you can have a clean side and a dirty side, right? Okay, I'm rigging up, I'm going to flip this over. Yeah, you got your nasty thing with your cut marks because you're cutting bait. Then you flip it over and you have your clean sides, and it looks nice and clean. So, again, not to toot our own horn, mostly because I want to be able to help you. If you have ideas, call us, because we've gone through the struggles, learned from the lessons of the people before you, and we've designed around some of that. And this is a great way to make sure that you always have a good looking top, but also a nice cutting surface.
Absolutely. What else we got?
All right, so trash cans. We did a whole segment on trash cans, but if you're incorporating an entire big unit, and you need a pretty big unit, right? You could totally do trash can storage.
And again, I think it really depends on, we talked about the initial question, how much room do you have? What type of boating are you doing?
Absolutely.
Everyone makes trash, though.
That's true. That's absolutely true. So this one is pretty cool. So the cubby that we looked at when we were first looking at catch-all space, we talked about that being pretty big and creating just this mass of trash, which I actually agree. That's probably a little bit larger than what you would normally do. Now, what you can do in that area is do adjustable and removable shelving.
Like a bookshelf home entertainment system where you're able to move those little toggles up and down throughout the unit and kind of get the right height for what you're going to be storing in that area.
That's exactly it. And it's tough to see because it's white, but there are little pocket marks so that this same kitchen cabinets hardware can be adjustable. So that's a really good option as well, and still a fair amount cheaper than drawers.
Absolutely. You can see how much less materials involved there than having drawers with the slides.
All right. This is a Mac Daddy way to do it, but it is really, really cool. This is actually drawers for each of your individual Plano trays. We've done a couple of these, and they are awesome. I mean, they're like, hey, run downstairs and look at this because it's just a bad looking box. Awesome box.
Super convenient. A lot of expense added. You can see each of those drawer slides that are part of that. But again, how nice is it to be able to stand under, that fits right underneath the leaning post. You're able to pull out the entire thing, not remove the Plano tray, flip it open, grab whatever lure you're using, and slide it right back into place.
Yeah, you've got your place to look down at it is right there. You don't have to fumble with where you're going to set it.
Sure.
So this is awesome. This is actually another great example while we're in here of your cross dividers, right? So you've got cross dividers actually in all three of these drawers. Pretty deep cross dividers.
Which are all removable.
All removable. All right, we've got some tackle bags, right? So tackle bags, are pretty convenient. There's two ways to do it. We've got a track system. I'll actually switch and let you do a Vanna White impression again.
Yeah, so you can see here, this is just a piece of extrusion that this bag fits into, right? So it slides out. This is mounted inside the tackle box in this case. This is able to slide out, retrieve your lure, and then press it back into the box.
Awesome. And then there's another way to do that. As opposed to on the slide track system, you can do it on the back of a door. So there's some of these bags that we have grommets on, and you're able to mount a hook on the back of a door, and it's not unlike your tool holders, right? You need to have some extra space, but you're able to store your lures that way.
Yeah, you can see a lot of the trolling skirts in that one. That's a really good use for that.
Yeah. And then this is a pretty slick one that's pretty unique. I'm going to try to play the video and see if I can play a YouTube video on the side of a YouTube video. This is actually designed with a removable door, okay? And this is lift off hinges, so you can take this whole door off, and then there's a system that this drops down and retains the Plano trays. So you can keep this open and you can easily access your Plano trays without having to worry about them actually sliding out on you. So let's actually play the video and see how it works. So you can see by default they're dropped down and locked in place, but you're able to lift that up, which releases them. So there's like a locking mechanism on the actual vertical piece right there that holds the Plano trays in. So this is kind of an upgraded way to do it. Here you can see again, they can't come out. You can keep that door off,
which is a good solution for the guy that wants to use all of the available depth but can't fit a tool holder or anything on the back of the door to help retain those Plano trays from sliding out.
Sure, absolutely. So those are a lot of the real funky ways that you could do it. There are a couple of others that I don't have the specific examples, but we got some sitting here. So why don't you show them? You want to show them the lure tubes here first?
Absolutely. So this is a lure tube, again, probably a trolling skirt, bullet weights that drop in here. You're able to drop those on the back of a door. We've also done a tilt-out unit that has 8 of these that go across it. That's pretty common. I think in Regulator has this part that's in the back of it. This is a newer part that we're pretty excited about. You can see where it's called the Groove jig box, and it's able to retain this hook in between each of these dividers. So another great way to stay organized.
And where would you? I mean, you could put that on the back of a door, right?
Back of a door.
Put it on the inside of any drawer.
On the top. A lot of people that imagine you stick this on top of your console, right?
Sure.
Anytime you're fishing, you're changing out something. I always just throw it in anywhere. Now you're able to switch back and forth from different lures to be able to retain it right in here where you're not getting poked with a hook. This one's unique for hard baits, right? So any crank baits that you're using or twitch baits, you've got the availability to put it in here and stay organized. That this isn't, every time you go to grab those out of a Plano tray, all of these treble hooks get tied together and you're holding one or the other. This keeps everything nice and organized. Again, really anywhere you want to put it on the boat. It's got VHB tape on the back of it, and then it's got mounting holes through here as well if you're going into a material like starboard.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, this is hopefully gives you a bunch of different ideas, and if you have the space to add storage unit on the boat, you could start going, okay, I would want some of this, I would want some of that. I equated a little bit to kind of the California closets for boats, right? I mean, there's never enough functional storage space on a boat, and hopefully this gives you a lot of different ways that you can design something that fits your boating style. Again, we've got Plano trays. We've got drawer units, we've got big catch-all areas.
And to your point, when you say California closet, I mean that's really the difference. You walk into a closet that's unorganized. The second you start adding some different components to keep this here and that there, you start to free up a lot more space in the boat or in that confined space.
And you can find what you need when you need it.
Exactly.
I have a saying that we use in our marketing, but I think it holds true. It's like luck happens when preparation meets opportunity. And like when you're on the water, there's no guarantees, but you sure as heck don't want to miss an opportunity because you're going, where's the heck is the gaff? Yep. Where is the knife? Where's this rig? Where's that rig? And there's a lot that's invested in getting out there. Both financially and from a time in standpoint, that anything you can do to give yourself an edge and keep you organized when you're on the water is super, super important. And hopefully you can see that we're heavily invested in trying to make sure that we give you the opportunity to do that. So let's see, we got a question here. What would you recommend for mounting hardware on some of these bigger face-mounted or freestanding boxes? So that's a great question. We mechanically fasten all of our boxes. Generally, our tackle boxes, when they're face mounting, are pre-drilled for number 8 fasteners, and we would recommend running some sealant around the back of the frame so that it sits up and it helps with water intrusion behind the frame, between the fiberglass and the frame. And number 8 fasteners.
If it's a larger unit, we always talk about chalking it up in the back as well, right?
Absolutely.
So you've got a unit that's heavier in the depth side that you're dropping in there. You don't want all of that weight displaced just based off of the fiberglass.
Twerking the frame.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So chalking it up in the back of it's very important. In some cases, if you have access, through bolting, of course, is better than just screwing directly through the frame
Absolutely.
with a screw.
Yeah. And then on the freestanding ones that just go down to the ground, for the most part, it's just some larger lag screws, and those are pre-drilled through the bottom of the unit to be able to tap right into your deck. And I see that's really common. One of the best sellers on the site are in fact 2 or 3 of the best sellers on the site are freestanding units that fit underneath a leaning post that replace your cooler. Generally, there's enough cooler space on the boat, or maybe I'm bringing some soft-sided coolers, that to be able to have that functional, rigging space and the tackle storage is advantageous. So we're selling a lot of those, and those generally just tap right down into the deck with screws you have through the bottom of the unit. Well, perfect. If there's anything that we missed, let us know in the comments. But otherwise, we really appreciate your time. Thanks, and have a great day.